Hi, welcome to the Reading Fabricator. I'm Russell, and for this week's reading vlog, I'm going to talk to you about everyone's favourite chef author, and that is Anthony Bourdain. Now, I was first introduced to Bourdain by his book Kitchen Confidential, which I read about 3 years ago during a very turbulent time in my life. Devoured it. It was during Christmas break when I was at my family's farm down south. And I still have a lot of fond memories of this. This is my book here. Probably still one of my favorite non-fiction books of all time. It's gripping, it's very well written. And after watching the Roadrunner documentary, which I watched a few days ago, it sort of got me back into the mood of reading even more by him. I've picked up some more of his books since then, including The Nasty Bits, Medium Raw, and even his graphic novel Hungry Ghosts, which is a phenomenal graphic novel. Actually, it's very well illustrated. Highly recommend this one. But I've actually gotten into reading Medium Raw now, his second book. And from what I've seen so far, a lot of people consider Kitchen Confidential his best book, but I think his best writing is in Medium Raw. I'm only 60 pages into it, but it's already coming across as far more distinct and elegant. He's found a way to adjust his wording right, and it's beautiful. It's really well written. I'm breezing through this. I mean, I'm averaging about 50, 60 pages a day. So I'm going to read to you from one of his essays here. It's called The Rich Eat Differently Than You and Me, and I think it's the best essay he has written thus far until I finish the book and all that sort of thing. So this is the first page. I was holed up in the Caribbean about midway through a really bad time. My first marriage had just ended, and I was, to say the least, at loose ends. By loose ends, I mean aimless and regularly suicidal. I mean that my daily routine began with me waking up around 10, smoking a joint, and going to the beach where I'd drink myself stupid on beer, smoke a few more joints, and pass out until mid-afternoon. This is to be followed by an early evening rise, another joint, and then off to the bars, followed by the brothels. By then, usually very late at night, I'd invariably find myself staggeringly drunk, the kind of drunk where you've got to put a hand over one eye to see straight. On the way back from one whorehouse or another, I'd stop by the shawarma truck on the Dutch side of the island and, as best as I could, shove a meat-filled pita into my face, sauce squirting onto my shirt front. Then, standing there in the dark parking lot, surrounded by a corona of spilled sauce, shredded lettuce and lamb fragments, I'd fire up another joint before sliding behind the wheel of my rented 4x4, yank the top down, then peel out onto the road with a squeal of tires. That's the first paragraph. And it's a wonderful, I'd say, about 15, 20 page essay. And from there, it dictates how he goes to the Caribbean to get away from life, to just rest, he was at a very bad time in his life until he met this woman in New York. And she turned out to come from a very prominent family, very wealthy family. He decided to take her to the Caribbean with him, and he already knew this was a bad idea. There were just warning signs that were popping up everywhere. But then she decided to take him to the richer side of the Caribbean. And from there, you just get this wonderful diatribe about how he talks about how the rich will just go to a place just because they charge a certain amount. Doesn't matter if the food is shit or not. And it all culminates into him just having this existential crisis of sorts and pretty much abandons this woman before anything bad can happen, and then just going to the airport, sleeping on a bench, and then flying 10 minutes to the other side of the island just so that he could be at peace. And I think it's the best essay he's actually ever written, better than anything I've read in Kitchen Confidential, even though Kitchen Confidential might be the better book, I'm not sure yet. But he just has a way with writing that you just streamline it, you just keep on going, you just keep on reading, you just want to know more and more. And a problem I found with a lot of the books that I've read lately is that I could read 4 or 5 pages and then I'm utterly exhausted. A good example of this is Luna Park by Bret Easton Ellis. Only 300 pages, but Jesus, it is such a densely packed book. You read a few pages of that and you're like, holy, only been 2 pages, it feels like 10. Even though it's not difficult or anything like that, it's just the way the words are processed and all that. Whereas with Bourdain, it reads like, I'd say the equivalent of Bukowski, where it just zips by you, just constantly just reading line after line after line, and it provides what you need to keep on going. Although I find this to be infinitely better than Bukowski, even though I do like Post Office. So that is Medium Raw, which I'm 60 pages into and loving every minute of it. Absolutely fascinating. Do check out the documentary Roadrunner. There has been a fair few people who describe it as a bit of an exploitation, but it's very hard for anything to be an exploitation of anything, considering that, he only died a few years ago. So of course everyone's going to, connect that to that. There was no way of getting around it. But I think it's a wonderful documentary. I actually think it might be my favourite one of the year, and I've seen a few now, including Val and the Truffle Hunters, which were quite great documentaries. But Roadrunner is a very good, very well put together piece, featuring a few cameos by people I wasn't expecting, including Josh Homme. So that was quite a surprise. I look forward to reading the nasty bits afterwards, and then getting his fourth one in the quadrilogy, which is a Cook's Tour, and then I'll be done with him. That's probably a coarse way of saying it. I mean, I do want to reread some of his essays in the near future, but yeah, I find him definitely the most fascinating individual out of all the chefs out there. Sure as hell more than Gordon Ramsay or Marco Pierre or even Jamie Oliver. I just don't think they have a style of their own. They're very abrasive. Where Anthony Bourdain, there was something likable about him from the get-go. So yeah, he will be missed. For Hungry Ghosts, which is absolutely fascinating. That's the sort of imagery you'll be looking at if you're thinking of reading it. It wasn't a cheap book. I had to order this online, but I think it's worth it. I think it's absolutely worth it. Apparently he has another one called Jiro. I can't remember which one it was. But from what I get, he's fascinated with Japanese. He seems to be really fascinated with it. This is sort of a horror book of sorts. So if you're into that sort of thing, do check this out. So yeah, that is it. That is my reading vlog for this week. Let me know what you're reading. Otherwise, yeah, have a good day, everyone. See you.